Well, Henry Cuellar is what you call an odd duck in Washington. I don't think he takes offense to that description because even though he easily won re-election, there were a number of powerful Democrats who weren't too keen on him getting re-elected because he has spoken out about the administration and the crisis at the border when it, let's say, was not popular to do so in his own party. Nevertheless, he did win comfortably, and he will be, among other things, in a very prominent role overseeing the budget of the Department of Homeland Security. Kind enough to join us now, the Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar. Congressman, good to have you, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Neil. It's always a pleasure being with you.
Same here, sir. The border was a big issue for you. It's been as long as I've known you. So you've been a thorn in the side of Republican and Democratic administrations alike. What do you want to see done now? What do you think can be done now?
You know, certainly we want to make sure that we work with both Democrats and Republicans in addressing this issue. But, you know, we got to look at what the facts are because, you know, look, for example, when people talk about stopping drugs, you know, they make it sound like they're coming with the migrants. But if you really look at it, 94% of the meth will come through bridges. 91% of the fentanyl will come through our bridges. So we got to put the focus on our bridges to stop the drugs. And when you look at about half of the 12 million undocumented aliens that we have in the U.S., half of them came here legally through visa overstays. And by the way, Canada is the #1 violator when you look at all the countries. So I just want to look at a smart way of addressing border security.
Would it be wise for the president to just physically go to the border, to see for himself what you've seen constantly?
Absolutely. I mean, I think any president, Democrat, Republican, should come to the border to know exactly what's happening here. You know, look, when you're 1,500 miles away, it's so easy to look at it in an abstract way. But when you're here and you talk to Border Patrol, you talk to the men and women from OFO, which are the men and women in blue, you get a very different feeling and you get a true understanding of what's happening at the border. When you see this vast lands where, you know, you need more Border Patrol agents, and I'm talking about, you know, the ranchers that I talk to, it becomes real. So, yes, I certainly invite the president to come down to the border.
You know, people always talk about you got to get meaningful, you know, border reform, you know, immigration reform. I get all of that, but the two parties seem very divided, with Republicans wanting to build and continue that wall, Democrats opposed to that, Democrats keen on finding an eventual way to citizenship for the, however, 16 to 20 million who are here illegally, or at the very least their children. And of course, that's a non-starter, we're told, with the Republicans, at least the path to citizenship for those who are here. So where is the common ground?
Well, certainly everybody has to give and take. Look, I've seen the goalpost moved. When President Bush was our president, he said, build 650 miles of fencing and we will do immigration reform. Guess what? We're over 650 miles of fencing, and we still don't have immigration reform. Look, there's a couple of things that I think we ought to look at. A good guest worker plan will actually help border security because then you will have people come in and work, and you know who's coming in and who's going to be returning. And that way, Border Patrol doesn't look at the people that are coming into work and helping our economy grow, but they can look at the people that have the bad motives, the people that shouldn't be here. And, you know, if we do that, some of the immigration reform actually will help us in border security as a guest worker plan would do.
Congressman, you know, you've dealt with this for as long as you've been in Washington, but you know, you encounter resistance from both sides, but you've been working with both sides. You've been working with a number of Republican congressmen in your very state about coming up with something. But the cold shoulder you've gotten from Democrats seems pretty palpable to me. And what I read about it, there wasn't a whole lot of party help for you in your reelection effort. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know, the far left, the 3% did not help me, but the party did help. I mean, they actually spend millions of dollars to counter the very negative attacks that the Republicans spent against me. So the establishment Democrats were there. The far left and, you know, sometimes the far right, you know, those are the folks that make it hard for people like Tony Gonzalez, and I know that Congressman Tony Gonzalez have been on your show.
Right.
Some of us just want to roll up our sleeves and get the job done. I always follow the words of LBJ when he said, "I'm an American, I'm a Texan, and I'm a Democrat," all in that order. And I think that should apply to Republicans too.
The reason why I mention it is that, the White House would bristle at your suggestions about the president coming to the border, what you want to see more of here, but that did not show itself in terms of funding that the National House Democratic Committee was raising on you, for you and all your colleagues.
Well, all I know is that the DCCC and the House Majority PAC supported me in the millions of dollars to counter the monies that came in. They actually did. The establishment.
So it's just
Democrats
the progressives who don't like you.
Well, some don't. I actually have very good friends that are progressives, and I always tell my progressive friends, look at the definition of progressive. And that means you're open to new ideas. So it's not only their ideas, but being a progressive should be open up to other ideas.
Okay. It's always good seeing you, Congressman. Congratulations again on your pretty comfortable victory. Henry Cuellar from the beautiful state of Texas. He's been championing this issue long before most.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.